Hey, you're about to see a free full workshop from my School of Transformation. The School of Transformation is my private community designed to help you to live an exceptional life. And you can join at brendaturner.com/transform. I hope you enjoy this workshop. I hope that you take notes, get a notebook, and actually practice what you're hearing. I know some of it can sound real simple and almost too good to be true, but this stuff really works. So enjoy the workshop. The ultimate state is just we enjoy food, we see it as nourishment, and there's not a bunch of drama and energy around the food. That's exactly what we're doing today, because a lot of us, we've got all this energy wrapped up in food, whether we're overeating, and this can go the other way, where we're highly restricting. These are both two ends of the same seesaw of suppressing emotions, of using food as a way to manage emotions that we don't want to deal with in real time. So we can also use food as this workshop's called Overcoming Overeating, but really all unhealthy eating patterns are a reflection of being in a highly suppressed state, not wanting to feel our emotions. And then there's all this energy around the food, and we can't eat food in a balanced way. We don't feel a sense of just neutrality about food. So we want to feel neutral about food, appreciate the food, love the food, enjoy the experience of food. But right, exactly. Thank you for sharing that. And Stacy says, I think I'm getting there in my feelings. Like you said, it's a habit. I'm 53. I'm comfortable just noticing that overeating has become a habit for me as well as feelings. Beautiful. Okay, great. Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me. I totally get what you're saying, Stacy, and thanks so much for sharing that. I think it is just a practice. And so that's what we're going to do today. And so some people are new to this. I know Joy is a little bit new to this, and I know Yorsha is a little bit new to this. We've got some OGs in the house who are hip to what a little bit of the process that I'm going to be offering, but we're going to be doing this in real time. So so we've got some food. Everybody brought some food. I've got a little thing of food. We're going to be eating together in a minute. The first part of this process is we've got emotions that we're feeling all the time. There's always some emotion coming and going in the body, always. And so when you're in a neutral state, when you're just driving your car somewhere and you're not really thinking about it, and there's still emotions in there, but they're not pinging you, they're not strumming your strings. They aren't emotions that you care about. But there's emotions that are happening sometimes that you aren't enjoying, that you really don't want to be feeling. And so those emotions might come up about who knows what. It doesn't really matter what the situation is outside. What matters is some emotions coming up and you don't want to feel that feeling. So I'm going to kick it back to you guys. And this might come up also in the eating process, but I wonder if right now, if you can discern when and what emotions come up for you that you really, really aren't enjoying. If you can label them. If you're not able to label them, that's okay. But if you are able to, let's think about just briefly, if you can do a quick little inner scan of recalling what emotional tones and energies do you not do well with? Are you very much resistant to? Are you really struggling with feeling? These might be emotional patterns that have been driving your eating patterns your whole life. Maybe there's something more acute in like the past couple years, you know? But does anything come to mind for you guys? Any emotions? Yeah, let me know if there's any emotions that you can think of now that you're like, oh, I really don't do well with fear. I really don't like stress. I'm highly averse to sadness. I really don't like loneliness. I really don't like anger. I really don't like frustration. I became a new mom, so a lot of anxiety and fear of failure. Yeah, fear and stress. I struggle with boredom and being tired, then eat. Yes, okay. Yeah, these are all boredom. Boredom And I want to clarify, boredom is actually kind of a surface level emotion, and that's not exactly an emotion. It's kind of on the surface of something else. There's almost always something underneath boredom. Sometimes it's like a loneliness, or it doesn't always have to be, but sometimes boredom is kind of on the surface level, and then there's loneliness underneath there. More importantly than the labels, though, everybody. So everybody just gave some really great vulnerable answers. No, yeah, she said, okay, we'll feel deeper next time. No, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean to say you're feeling the wrong thing. Boredom is a perfectly fine like answer. You're feeling totally okay. Everything you're doing is great. But I just always feel like boredom, sometimes there's something underneath the boredom, you know? Um, Abandonment and loneliness. I struggle with issues of abandonment from childhood trauma, and the loneliness makes me feel like I don't have anyone in my circle. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Nellie. Abandonment and loneliness. Yeah, and that comes in like the pit of the stomach for me. Like when I hear abandonment and loneliness, that's getting me in the pit of the stomach. And so that's another thing, everybody, when you're tapping into, and we're going to get a little bit more granular with this as we go, but when we're tapping into these emotions, then we can actually feel into where we feel them in the body. We're going to get more into this in a minute. Emma says stress, nauseousness, fear, usually an event or something I have to do that is coming up. Yeah. Yes. So absolutely. So we can also see from what everybody provided that there's some overlap here. And right, there's some definite overlap. The boredom hits me in the chest. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Me too. When you said boredom, yeah, boredom it definitely lives around up here for me also. So we can see that there's some overlap here in these emotional tones and these emotional energies. Now, what do we do with this? So first we have to notice that they're there. So what we just did was a very powerful exercise of noticing these emotions, because a lot of the times the way that this overeating driven by emotions works is the emotions creep in, and it's maybe like half a second, and then your system slams the door on it. It's like a defense mechanism. Your system slams the door on it. Your conscious mind and subconscious mind say, nope, not feeling that, going to the fridge, and you don't really even notice that you're feeling fear or anxiety or overwhelm or nauseousness or whatever it is. So first things first, noticing. So what we just did was the very first step. Notice. We can only notice when we're present. So I know that you guys, if you guys are dealing with, overeating or just unhealthy eating patterns in general, we can take the time to notice what we're feeling a minute or two or 10 or 15 before we're going to eat, and just notice the feeling. So that's step one. Notice the feeling, be aware of your feeling, be present for yourself to feel the feeling. So we can drop in at any given time. You don't have to meditate to do this. You don't have to close your eyes, but we can just right now take a minute to drop in to our bodies. So we can drop in paying attention to, how am I feeling? What's happening in my body? So you can even ask, what's going on in here? How am I feeling right now? It takes literally a 2-second check-in, and it doesn't really even have to go much deeper than that. Sometimes it might, and sometimes it might not, but we can just say, how am I feeling right now? Okay, I'm feeling stressed. I know that seems way too simple to work, but that is the magic. That is the power. And most people have not tried this, and then they say, that's not going to work for me. But you have to try it. So what am I feeling right now? How do I feel? How am I feeling? What's going on inside me? Okay. Then we take it to the next step. And the next step is, now that I'm feeling this way, the next step, if anybody can guess what the next step is, the next step is now we can feel the emotions. So now it's time to go into the emotions and swim in them. And by swim in them, I mean get really into feeling the feeling in our body. So, so right now, even as we're sitting here, We can feel whatever's coming up right now. And maybe there's not a whole lot coming up because we're sitting here together in a workshop, just learning stuff. We're just talking about things. But we can start to feel even the neutrality, even when there's not much happening. Or maybe there is some lingering emotion or stress or fear from the past couple hours, the past week. Maybe some things have gone on and it's kind of carried into your body. So let's take a minute to really feel into what's here now. And it does help to close our eyes. So we can close our eyes. And we can notice sensations happening in the body. You can also take it from head to neck, to shoulders, to chest, to the abdomen, to the hips, all the way down to the feet, and just see where's some extra kind of sensation happening. Now, I wonder if anybody has anything happening, any sensations, emotions, anything coming up. Whether you do or you don't, it's okay either way. But if we have an uncomfortable one, and that's what we're going to primarily be dealing with, is uncomfortable emotions today. If we have an uncomfortable one, what do we do with that? Well, that's when we actually go deeper into it. That's when we actually say, okay, there's a tightness in my chest. My chest is feeling very, very tight, and I don't enjoy this feeling. However, we can sit with the tightness in the chest for a couple minutes. And just notice, even as you pay attention, that you'll get some releasing happening. We can ask the question, can I welcome this emotion? Can I welcome this sensation? Can I welcome this feeling, this discomfort, this fear, this loneliness, this anxiety? Can I welcome this with open arms? Really, truly welcome it. And there's usually some resistance to that. Sometimes there's a resistance. Sometimes there's a no, I really don't want to welcome it. And that's okay. We can notice that also. Okay, I notice there's a part of me that does not want to release this, that does not want me to fully feel and accept this emotion. Okay, that's okay. I'm gonna let that also be there. And see, the mind wants something to be happening, and the mind wants to fix this emotion or change it or make it go away or make it stop. So we're going to sit with it just a little longer because this is the practice. So let's keep sitting with whatever the emotion is without wanting to change it or fix it. That's key. So we're not doing this to change the emotion or fix the emotion. We're doing this to just allow whatever's happening within us to be there. This is a form of love and self-care. We're actually loving ourselves right this second. This is offering compassion. When we talk about being compassionate and gentle with ourselves, this is being gentle and compassionate with ourselves because we're being here for ourselves. We're being the friend that we would like. You know, we want friends. You want a good friend to be there for you when you're going through something. So now you're being the best friend you could possibly be to yourself when you've got an emotion coming up and you say, you're all good. You're allowed to be sitting here in fear. I'm going to be right here with you, my friend. Let's be afraid and lonely and sad. I'm right here with you. I don't need you to be any other way than the way you are right now. This isn't conceptual. This is actually, we're feeling the energy, the sensations. And now we ask the question that we've asked many times here at the School of Transformation, but we're going to ask it. And that is, am I willing to let this go? Am I willing to let the energy behind this go to the best of my ability? Even if it's just 2%, am I willing to let this fear, sadness, boredom, anxiety, am I willing to let this go? Not waiting for something external to be happening. We don't need something external. Like I'll let it go if this changes or that changes. I'll let it go if this happens or that happens. No, if the magic here is, am I willing to let it go no matter what? Am I willing to let it go no matter what's happening out there? Right? Okay, and so now you might notice that there's a little bit of a lightness or a shift or a change happening, especially if we go into the body and we're allowing these feelings to be felt and we're allowing them to be present and we're actually willing to let them go if we can, if we're able, and if we're not willing to let it go, that's okay too. There's still some space there. So now we've got some agency, right? Now we've got some agency. Now it's not just like I said in the beginning, it's not just this automatic door close, no emotions are allowed here. You're not allowed to feel fear. I'm not allowed to feel this sadness. I don't want to feel this pain. I don't want to feel this anxiety. That shuts us off from ourselves, and that leads to the unhealthy patterns that we're kind of mired in. But now we've gone through this whole process. There's an emotional space happening here, and it's very, very powerful. So now, did everybody bring something to eat? We're actually going to be practicing this in real time so that you actually get this process. We just did a practice, and now we're going to actually incorporate some real-time eating with our with the practice that we just did. So does everyone have food? Put in the chat what you brought to eat. Put in the chat if you brought some little something. I got some celery sticks. If you got dinner, you got some, whatever you got, chicken breast, I don't care, whatever you brought, just put it in the chat. I want to just make sure that everyone's got some food. Orange grapes, great. Orange grapes pasta, perfect. Awesome. I have some walnuts, awesome. Okay, perfect. Awesome, everybody. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to first, before we eat, this is the part of the process of really slowing down. This is a process that we're going to use right now to actually really get in there and see what's in there. We're going to kind of pop under the hood, so to speak. So let's take a minute to notice the food that we brought in. Notice the way it looks. Look at your food and notice it and just see it as it is. And notice your reaction to it, any somatic reaction. Notice if there's things happening in your salivary glands, if your salivary glands are now excreting saliva in anticipation of eating. Notice if there's a sense of urgency. Notice if there's a sense of frustration at just wanting to eat it already. Just notice it. Let's just be with the food and notice the way it smells, the way it's interacting with us. Notice any patterns that might be arising already. There might be something bubbling up. Even just the act of coming and sitting to eat. We can take, right now what we're doing is we're taking a step to notice our initial approach to food, how we come to food, you know, how we arrive at the act of eating. So I wonder if you guys have noticed anything so far of how you kind of arrive to the act of eating. This is not a judgment, so we're not saying anything bad or wrong. We're just noticing ourselves. So this is a process of ungluing ourselves from our maybe our rote way of being with food, our habitual kind of process. So if anybody noticed anything so far, like, yeah, I noticed a sense of urgency. I noticed some frustration. I want to hurry up and eat already. I'm very hungry. Yeah, definitely urgency. Okay, great. Perfect. So we noticed that urgency. Yeah, perfect. And the urgency, let's go into that sensation and feeling in the body. We notice a sense of urgency. We notice that there's some somatic feeling. Where is the urgency living? Let's notice that. Definitely a sense of urgency without hunger. Yes, perfect. Great. So let's go into the urgency. And where does that live? That urgency, where is that residing? Where is belly? Okay, great. Belly. Yeah, so we notice that sense of urgency. We notice where it's residing. Okay, I'm noticing that sense of urgency. Now, underneath the urgency, this may or may not be quite apparent right just this second, but let's sit with it just a little bit longer, because this is where a lot of breakthroughs can happen. So there's an urgency here. Let's close our eyes. Let's be with the urgency. And let's see if there's anything underneath it. We don't have to search for anything. We don't have to dig very deep. This isn't heavy lifting here, but is there something underneath the urgency? Or is the urgency trying to cover something up? Is the urgency trying to prevent you from feeling something? Is the urgency there as a kind of blinder, a veil, covering something up? I wonder if anything came up for anybody on that. If the urgency was covering anything, if anything's behind urgency. Maybe you didn't pick up anything, and that's okay too. We don't have to have any expectations in this process, but this is just the first layer. And many times urgency is trying to kind of grab your arm and say, don't look over there, quick, eat some food. Don't feel this feeling, quick, eat the food. Some sadness. Yeah, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Some sadness. So this is huge. Some sadness came up behind the urgency. And that's really common. The urgency isn't about the food. The urgency, it seems like, well, I'm just hungry and I just want to eat. If we're not really, if there's not like real physical hunger there, and there's a sense of urgency to eat the food, the urgency usually is covering, like I said, it's a veil covering, preventing you from feeling some kind of emotion. It's some part of you that's, like I said, quick, eat the food. Let's not feel the feeling that's about to come up. And then when we just wait a minute, when there's that urgency and we just give it a minute, okay, there's some sadness here. So whatever was behind your urgency, everybody, let's just sit with that for another minute. And let's go into the sadness or the anxiety or the whatever it is. That sounds ridiculous. Why would I go into sadness? However, the sadness can't last forever and it's ready to be felt because you feel some sadness. So let's allow the sadness to be there. There's nothing wrong with the sadness. There's nothing bad about it or whatever it is, fear, boredom, it doesn't matter. So let's go into feeling whatever it was behind the urgency. And that means to go into where it is in your body, in the chest. You mentioned the chest. So let's go into feeling it in the chest or wherever it is for anybody else here, wherever that, whatever is behind the urgency, wherever it is in your body, let's go into that sensation and allow it to be as it is without wanting to change it or fix it or make it feel better. We're just going to go in and let that be there. And in real time, you don't have to close your eyes, but it's just helpful now because we're doing it on a deeper level. But in real time, it'd be like you could keep your eyes open and just say, wow, I'm noticing some sadness here. Let me sit with the sadness for a minute and let me just be here with the sadness. There's a part of me that's sad. So let me be here with the sadness before I do anything else. It doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter clean the house or whatever it is. Let me just be with myself for a minute because I've got some sadness here. Okay, is everyone following so far? How's everybody doing? You can always put in the chat if you got a question or if something's coming up, if you're like, I just don't get this, you can always let me know that. So now we are going to actually take a mindful bite. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a bite, we're going to chew it, and as we're chewing it, we're going to go way into the sensations and the flavors and everything that's happening in our mouth and in our body. And we're going to be very present with the eating process. We're just going to take one bite, one mindful bite, and then we're going to chew mindfully. So let's go ahead and do that. And now after you've completed the chewing process, now let's notice in the body, the energy, the feeling, the way that interacted with the body. And now what we're doing now, so we've been doing a lot of noticing of the emotions. We've been doing a lot of noticing of anything that's behind the urgency. We've been doing a lot of mindfulness and kind of separating from the emotions that have normally been just like fused with us. Now also we're taking this practice of being mindful and being with the food in a different way than we were before. So the eating process, we don't have to eat like this all the time, but we can start to bring that mindful presence that we had this whole time, more or less. We've been watching our minds and our emotions, and now we're watching our minds and emotions, and we're incorporating that mindfulness into the sensory experience of eating, the eating process, chewing, tasting, swallowing, allowing the food to go down the esophagus and into the stomach. It's all very involved and very intricate and very amazing, this experience. When we're really being with the food, it kind of changes the way that we interface with the food. Our proclivity to like really just using the food as a way to suppress our emotions, it's a lot harder to do that when we're actually appreciating the food that we're eating and we're with the food and really with the food. So no matter what you're eating, if we sit down, take a minute and we take a bite and we enjoy the bite, right? And so let's take one more bite. Let's do another bite let's do another bite and a mindful bite. And we can also notice any thoughts happening. If there's any thoughts happening with the food, with the eating process, we can notice those also. Right? And we can notice the effect that the food is having on our system, on our energy. There's a subtle shift already. In the 2 bites that we just took, there's some changes happening in the body. We can notice those little subtle changes and how the food's impacting our body. And then the after effect. And now we can notice if there's still a need or a want to chew more and faster than we're able to keep up with. So that sense of urgency, let's notice if it's carried into the chewing process, and the sense of urgency wanting you to eat more than you can, eat more than you're able, or to chew more than you're able, or to chew more, put more food in as you're still chewing the last bite. Let's notice that also. Sometimes I get mad at food. LOL, I want pizza, but it hurts to eat. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I totally I understand your pain, Stacy. If I could just, that would be my prison meal, pizza. The last meal. That's funny. So does anybody else have a sense of urgency in between bites? Yes, I reached for a second before I was finished chewing. Yes. Yeah, the sense of urgency carrying into the bites and the actual process of eating. We can notice that also. And all of this process is, we're noticing these things. These are things we don't usually notice. These are things that are just very, very subtle. But now we can start to notice, what is that about? So let's slow down when we notice this. Okay, I noticed that pattern, trying to eat more than what I already chew. I'm still chewing the first bite. I notice I'm reaching for more. Let's slow down a little bit. Again, we don't have to do this at every meal, but we can notice, just in a grand scheme, we can start to notice these. What is this about? What's behind that energy, that urgency? What is that? It's a lot of people have a tendency to oversimplify this and say, well, I just want to keep eating because I'm hungry. But there's a sense of urgency there on an energetic level for a reason. There's something that's wanting to be covered up. There's something that we're trying to not feel most of the time. How do we deal with that sadness? Foods we can't eat because it's bad for us. Yeah. Yeah, that's the wanting to eat a certain food, but it's bad for you, so you don't. And I think that's more of a reframe thing for me personally. I have just reframed, you guys already know that I've got, healing with food, and that's all about eliminations for autoimmune and inflammatory conditions. So I've just reframed food means something different for me. Like pizza means something totally different for me, and it means, cell damage and mitochondrial dysfunction and all that stuff. So I reframe it in my mind. And so when I look at pizza, I don't just see a delicious pizza. I see like an inflammatory process happening. And so I think that's a really nice way to deal with that. I'm a chef and food is my life. Yeah, I know. I know, Stacy. Yeah, I know. I remember you telling me that. That is a tough one. You could probably just make a healthy one, and I'll work on that for you. Trying to figure out a real deal healthy version of pizza. So does anybody else have anything come up so far that you kind of I notice the feeling of urgency to eat is blanketing some kind of tiredness from being so present and careful throughout the day to observe my thoughts. It feels as if I want to switch consciousness off. Yes, even though my higher self knows exactly what I'm up to as I reach for the food. Yes, I feel like the urgency says, tomorrow I will turn away from the food and feel my emotions tomorrow. I've come a long way with being present, but have not been able to consistently hold myself in the urgency. We'll have to investigate more. Absolutely. Emma just broke it down and dropped the mic and so eloquently put into words what most people are dealing with. That was beautiful, Emma. That's exactly right. That's exactly it. Nail right on the head. Right. So what I'll say to that, yes, exactly that comment. Right. Exactly. Emma, that's what I know. Emma just put it so beautifully. That's a beautiful summary. That's a beautiful summation. So now what do we do with this? What do we do with this? Well, that's what we're practicing today. So let's go deeper into that urgency. Let's sit with the urgency for just a couple minutes. Let's see what we got in there. Because here's the thing, what Emma just said, there's a part of her that's already hip to and doing the work, and not even just doing the work, but that is already there, like really. And then there's part of our ego self that's really resisting the feeling, and it's just like, yeah, I know. But really, let's just do that tomorrow. Like, let's deal with that tomorrow, as she said. Let's deal with that tomorrow. The big illusion is it's all happening right now. So right now, we're here right now. So let's go ahead and get with that urgency. And the more that we do this, the more it cracks open, the more it cracks open, the more it cracks open. Eventually it cracks all the way open, and there's no more shell. It's like there's a shell here, and we're dripping water on it little by little the more that we sit with it, which is awesome. So eventually it cracks wide open and is transmuted. That's what we call energetic transmutation, is just sitting with it and allowing it to be uncomfortable, sitting with that urgency, sitting with the emotions behind the urgency. So let's just sit with it for another couple minutes, where that's what we're here working through. So let's take another bite, a mindful bite. Gonna try to not chew into the mic, making this a weird ASMR situation. The bite's finished now. And there might be a pull to get another bite. So let's be with the pull, the urgency. Let's be with the food that's present in front of us. Let's be with ourselves. And this is a gentle thing. We don't have to like really, we don't have to do a microscope onto ourselves. Like, what am I thinking? What's going on under there? We're just sitting here chilling, just being with ourselves right now, noticing if there's something coming up. And being with that pull to have another bite. Let's be with it and see what is going to happen when I don't. What wants to be felt that I'm not feeling most of the time when I'm reaching for food? What's ready to be felt? What's coming up when I don't? And if anybody has anything coming up, please put it in the chat. Just giving space. We're just giving space right now for whatever is coming up. Just giving lots of space to it. Fear and insecurity. Beautiful. So let's be there let's really go into it and let's be there with it. Going into the body in the present moment. Right now, there's fear and insecurity coming into the body. It's feeling wherever it is in the chest, maybe in the diaphragm, in the stomach, in the solar plexus. Let's let it be there. Let's let it do its thing. Let's let it be there without wanting to change it or fix it. And let's just feel that fear and insecurity for just a minute or two and watch it as it dissipates. Does anybody have anything coming up in those couple minutes that minute or two, when we just let something be felt? Most energies don't last more than a couple minutes, which is why this work is so powerful. When we just sit with the fear and insecurity for a minute or two, or maybe a little bit longer, sometimes 3, 4, 5 minutes, at most like 10 minutes max, those feelings, those emotions, they dissipate and they transmute and they lighten up. And then you get a whole lighter, freer feeling. Let's take another minute. Let's take another minute to feel whatever it is you're feeling right now, wherever you're at, whether you feel like, I don't know what I'm feeling, I'm not sure what I'm feeling, it doesn't matter. We can drop into the body again. Let's drop back into the body. And I know at this point, it's like, oh, this is too much feeling, but this is a practice and we can do this all the time, just dropping in. So imagine that you've got a little pebble and you bring it in, breathe it into your body and drop it all the way down through your whole system, through the center of your body, and just allow your attention to just open to whatever is arising, whatever emotions you're feeling right now. Right. Okay. And I know that Stacy says, wow, I'm really angry at food. I can't cook for my son. Sadness, sorry for myself. Yeah, beautiful. That's beautiful that you're giving. First of all, thank you for sharing that. That's so vulnerable, but also it's beautiful that you have the space to see it, to see those things. And we can really let the sadness without the story. I mean, the story is really heartbreaking and also beautiful, but it's also the feelings, like where those feelings are in the body is also just as important as the story behind the feelings. The feelings are very important in the body because that's where they live. So it's all important. The story is important, but also the feelings are also very important. So sometimes we can get kind of trapped in the story. Believe me, that's something I'm definitely familiar with. We can get kind of stuck in the story, and then we're not getting into really feeling in the body. Especially if you're cerebral, like if you happen to be cerebral, as I am, sometimes I can get tripped up and your mind can take you for a ride, and then we lose touch with what's happening in the body. So when that sadness is happening and then the thoughts come in, thank you for those thoughts. They're very, very helpful because it gives us some context, and then we go back into the feeling. So thank you for the thought. Like when you have that revelation, and it is a revelation, thank you for the thought. Let me go back into the feeling. It's always nice to have the context and to understand why we're feeling like we're feeling, but sometimes, and I say that because sometimes there's people, maybe some people here, that you have a feeling and you don't know why you have it, and there's no story and you've got no explanation for it, and you're just feeling, who knows, anxiety, stress, sadness, emptiness, whatever it is, and you don't even know why. So if that's the case and you don't know why, it doesn't matter. The story doesn't need to be there. You can always just go right into the feeling tone of it. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay. And so, yes. Okay, great. Great. Okay. And so I wonder if anybody has any kind of feedback, did anybody so far, has anybody gotten any kind of breakthrough, any kind of like maybe revelations? Oh, this is definitely something that I've been dealing with, or something that I've been suppressing, or let me just know where you're at and how you're feeling, everybody. Let me know if anything's kind of triggered any light bulb moments. I'd love to hear how this is going for you so far. And if you need any kind of help with maybe a sticking point, maybe you're not sure what you're feeling, maybe you're not sure how this applies, if you have any questions, does anybody have any questions about the process, about how to take this into the real, like tomorrow? I want to make sure that tomorrow, when you start your day or when you get to the evening time and you're going to eat dinner, that you feel kind of well equipped with the practices, what we just did. And I'm going to recap everything for you before we close session, but also before we close session, really important, I wanted to open it to questions, comments, any kind of anything in, and just to let everybody know, I'm not going to pull you up unless you want to come up. So you can raise your hand if you have a question. You can also just share in the chat. I'd love to hear how this went for you. If you have any questions, if you have anything you need help with, that's what I'm here for. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and give a summary and just kind of wrap everything up. But we have some extra time. So if you want to ask a question, if you want some direct support with anything you're working through, let me know. I've definitely had these feelings for a really long time, and there's still a lot of feeling to be done. Yes, right. So yes, I want to talk about that. That's really important, Nellie. Thank you for sharing that. Very important. So we can release on a certain emotion all at once in one big bite sometimes. That can happen. That especially happens when you're doing extended meditation sessions, when you're doing long, like a Vipassana retreat, when you've got lots of space and time in your day, when you completely shut off the external world and you're just really giving it to space and feeling the feelings. Most of us don't have that luxury. Most of us don't have 8 hours to do a Vipassana retreat for a week, 8 hours a day of just feeling the emotions coming up. And then usually a lot of people go to those Vipassana retreats and they have an illumination where they completely let go of some kind of sticky emotion that's been hanging around for a long time. However, a lot of us don't, like I said, don't have that luxury. So what happens? What happens is we can, throughout our day, do these feeling practices where you're letting the emotion come up and you're allowing it to be felt and you're not trying to change it or fix it. And then it's like I say all the time, it's like peeling layers off of an onion. Eventually the onion's completely gone. Eventually it is peeled away. And this is compounding. This does compound. So just like compound interest, there is a momentum that we can build up where we get so used to opening and releasing and allowing and letting things go that it happens faster and faster and faster. And it happens with more ease. We just become more practiced at it. And eventually you find yourself in the kitchen whistling Dixie and you're like, I feel great. I feel like I'm a different person. What happened? I haven't felt that emotion in years. I don't even know where it went. So that is also how it can work. It's different for every person, but like Nellie, like you said, it feels like you still have some feelings to be felt. And remember everybody, these are energies. So energy, it really is like an energy, just like we've got a little toddler and he's got to run his energy out. You know, if you guys ever have like nieces or kids or whatever, you gotta let them run. Same thing. If you don't let the toddler run, what happens? He throws little fits and he doesn't get that energy out. So we have to like feel the feelings. But yes, this energy will get spent as long as we keep opening the release valve. And the release valve is just feeling the feelings throughout the day, when they come up, when they're ready to be felt. You know, and we don't have to rush it. You know, we don't have to rush this process. There's no rush. Taking it as it comes naturally and organically, a little bit at a time, is very, very healthy also. So thank you for sharing that, Nellie. That's very helpful for everybody here. Okay, and then Yorsa says, I don't feel like I have time with a newborn, but I've been procrastinating and now it feels so overwhelming to start. Okay, I love this question. I want to offer this to you. This is a practice that you can also do throughout the day. So what I'm going to invite, this is just an invitation, but a way that we can bring this into our lives is with real time. For instance, if he's crying, your son or your new baby, newborn. If your newborn is crying, you didn't mention it, but congratulations on your newborn, by the way. But if your newborn is crying and you're comforting him, what we can do is we can comfort the newborn, we can be there, we can co-regulate, but then we can also, taking each step, you know, if you're pacing across a room, you're walking him back and forth, you can also be with your feet touching the ground, very present for what's happening in your body. What am I feeling right now? You know, it's maybe there's a little stress happening with the baby crying. I'm feeling a little bit of overwhelm. Where do I feel that in my body? Where am I feeling that? Where am I feeling that in my body? We can actually use this practice and kind of weave it into you're cooking dinner, you're getting the bottle ready, or whatever, you're taking a quick shower. So we don't actually have to sit and practice this stuff just when we're eating. We can actually practice the first part, which is just taking a minute to notice, how am I feeling? Just taking a minute to notice how am I feeling throughout the day is doing the work. And that's going to go a long way towards then when you get to the end of your day and you're about to eat dinner, or whenever you do sit down to eat, you're not going to have this backlog of emotions that have been suppressed. So just throughout your day, just try throughout your day to make it just a consistent thing where you're just checking in with your body and feeling what's there and not making anything wrong. I know when you have a newborn, I know that can be a lot of emotions, and sometimes we judge it. I shouldn't feel anxious. I shouldn't feel fearful. I shouldn't feel sad. I shouldn't feel angry. But you're feeling these feelings. So that's going to go a long way towards just keeping the cache clear. Allow yourself to feel the feelings throughout the day, no matter, what you've got going on. It just takes a couple minutes, and you can do this all day. And also, last thing I'm going to say is you might love, in the course catalog, there's polishing the mirror. I put two yoga knee drop practices in there. Those are great for postnatal care. Those are great for soothing the nervous system, and that's going to also help you a great deal. Um, Emma says, feeling the discomfort with growing wings. As I've heard you put it before, food has felt like something to hold on to, control, look forward to. Letting go of emotional comfort from it feels like nakedness. That's Emma's coming in with the poetry. That read to me like poetry. I love everything you just said, so vulnerable. And yes, and I totally understand where you're coming from on that. There's nothing that it's the illusion of control ultimately in this life. And not to get, I wanted to keep the workshop very like practical, but just to get a little impractical with it, there's nothing that we can control. It's the illusion of things that we can grasp onto. And I know a lot of you guys, you OG School of Transformation students and members, you guys know my take on this, but there's nothing really ultimately that we can control. We can only control our inner state ultimately. So, and even then, the best way to control the inner state is to open and allow and, pay attention and keep it clean. And that's the best way to like go about controlling. And then everything else, it kind of oddly works out in our favor, more or less. But yes, yeah, that's beautiful that it feels like nakedness to let go of controlling of getting emotional comfort from food. And also, by the way, I want to just tell everybody here, it's okay to get some nourishment from food, and it's okay to enjoy our food, and it's okay to love food. I love food. But what we're talking about is exactly what Emma just said, is getting emotional comfort from like control and maybe overconsumption, and using the food as a suppression mechanism, which is another way to say control. So thank you, Emma, for that. That's beautiful. And Nellie says, when I'm in the midst of the stress, anxiety, and sadness and fear, overeating and eating unhealthy foods can feel a little out of my control. Yeah, that's exactly what Emma kind of alluded to just now. And what we can do for this is, when it's feeling like way overwhelming, like way, like what you just said, like a tidal wave, a hurricane, a tornado in the chest, or whatever. What we can do for that, this is gonna take maybe a handful of times to get really, really seasoned. We have to become seasoned at being a kind of I wanted to say a samurai, but that's the best way I can put it. Like a samurai in the jungle of our emotions. So the emotions happening, and being okay with standing in the rain. Like imagine being in the rain and the rain's coming down on you, and just being okay with it. Like some people get out in the rain and they're like, covering themselves and they're running to their car and they're like, emergency, I gotta not get wet. When we get real practice at, come on, I'm fine, I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling anxiety, I'm feeling fear and anxiety. It's very intense in my chest right now. It's very intense in my throat. I feel like I'm having a hard time swallowing. I feel like there's a bowling ball in my stomach. Bring it on. Here I am. Let me sit with this fear for a second. Let me really sit with the fear for a second. When we get seasoned at this, it totally changes the game. So what I'm offering, my invitation to that is, when we see fear and anxiety coming up, we don't need to take it on like a fight or something. So that's why I was kind of hesitant to say the word samurai, but samurais have the sword of presence. So we can just be really present and see it as a doorway, an opportunity, a kind of, like I've said too many times lately, the poison is the medicine. We can see it as our medicine. Okay, here we go. Fear and anxiety. Let me sit with it. Let me just really be with the fear and anxiety. When we become seasoned at this and practice enough, there's no good enough. You're not being bad at feeling your feelings, but there's just a different way to approach it. And when we get real comfortable with being uncomfortable, it starts to become like second nature. Okay, here's fear and anxiety, whatever. I'm not afraid of it. So my invitation for you again is to just practice with sitting and allowing the fear and anxiety, really allowing them to be there. And even the out of control feeling, allowing that to be there. And this does take a little bit of will, a little bit of pushing, just a little bit. We don't have to fight with ourselves, but just a little bit of will goes a long way with this. Just feeling the feelings, really letting them be okay and allowed. I hope that makes some sense. Thank you. I think that will help a lot. I'll look into those. Okay, great. Okay, great. Yeah, okay. I know this is like such an important, this is important not just for the health reasons, but more importantly, it's for the energetic reasons. And everybody's sharing their struggles with fear and pain and sadness and anxiety and boredom and just all the emotions that come into, the process of overeating. This is very delicate territory, so we have to be gentle with ourselves. And like I said in the beginning, the best way to be gentle and compassionate with ourselves is to really be with ourselves, to really be in the present moment with ourselves and let those feelings come. Those feelings are not our enemy. Those feelings are allowed. Those feelings are welcome. Those feelings are normal. There's nothing wrong with us for feeling our feelings. And then when we come to eat, when we sit down to eat, we can just be mindfully with the food and appreciate the food and appreciate the eating process, right? So can this method also help with making better and healthier food choices? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So when we're making food choices, for instance, one of the reasons that we pick those heavy, the energetically dense and heavy foods, the unhealthy foods, those are drug-like. We already know this, that those foods have a drug-like effect on the brain. They release serotonin, they release dopamine, they release norepinephrine. They have all these different effects on the brain chemistry. This is in the scientific literature in copious amounts. MSG and all the other additives and artificial flavors and things that aren't healthy, that are in unhealthy, junky kind of foods, those impact our brain chemistry. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we turn to unhealthy foods. But we're doing that so that we aren't feeling the emotions that are in our body, so that we're not feeling the way that we're feeling. And so when we start to feel the feelings and let those feelings be felt, they will leave, everybody. So I know I'm saying feel the feelings, and I know that the initial thought is, well, then I'm just going to be fearful all the time, that I'm just going to be anxious all the time. But my guarantee to you is, no, you won't. You'll actually be so much more peaceful. When we start feeling the feelings, they leave your body, they transmute. Then you're not holding on to them like you were. And then you're not feeling the need to self-medicate in a way with the unhealthy foods. So yes, this will absolutely help you with the healthy food choices. And Yorsa, I've got a course in the course catalog called Healing with Food, and that's filled with all kinds of healthy nutrition options, healthy recipes, and that will also kind of help you to get some new ideas. But yeah, primarily we have to start feeling our emotions, and that's going to help us a great deal with how we interface with food and the kinds of foods that we're drawn to, for sure. Absolutely. Are there any other questions or comments or shares? I just saw Erica came in. I saw Erica, you've probably been here a while, but I didn't see your name when you came in. So thank you so much for coming in, Erica. Any other questions, comments, any other things that you need help with? Anything at all? No, everybody's all good? Okay. Oh, we got one new one. Thank you for the information. Yeah, absolutely, Erica. My pleasure. Thank you for coming out. I so appreciate it. Okay, everybody. So just to recap, I want to just really recap really quick before we close. So to recap, we have to be aware, awareness. That's step one, awareness. How am I feeling? We can do this all day. We can do this throughout the day. The more that we do this, the easier it becomes, and the less energy we've got stored in the body, the less that energy is driving our food choices, and the healthier our cells become. This also has a great effect on your overall health. How am I feeling? What's happening in my body? What's going on with my emotions? And then we allow it to be there. We have to be aware and then allow. Allow whatever is present to be there. We allow it to be there. We welcome it with open arms. We welcome it without trying to change it or fix it. Even if it's an emotion we'd prefer not to be having right now, it's there. So the more that we welcome it, the easier it'll be for it to leave our system. And then we ask, am I willing to let this go? Am I willing to release this emotion? This is especially helpful with things like frustration, anger, anything, it's a helpful question. Am I willing to let this go? No matter what the answer is to that question, it gives space. Even if your answer is no, I'm not willing to let this go, it gives space. And then for the eating process, we notice urgency, and we notice when we're turning to food, we notice what kind of emotions we're trying to cover up. There's always something underneath the surface. So before you go to your trigger food or your automatic kind of eating patterns, we can just take a minute to be with ourselves and notice what's underneath there. What's underneath there? Is there fear? Is there anxiety? Is there boredom? Is there sadness? Is there loneliness? And then we sit with those emotions just for a couple minutes until we notice there's a little bit of a space, a little bit of an opening, a little bit of a lightening. And that will always 100% of the time happen, even if just 5%. And if we keep doing that 5%, 5%, 5%, it gets lighter and lighter. Eventually it dissipates and you'll be free of that energy. As long as we keep allowing that to be released and don't store new energy like that, it'll be transmuted and you won't have it stuck in your system anymore. Right? And then we eat mindfully. Then we enjoy the food. That's the last step, is enjoy the food that you do eat. We enjoy it and then we move on. Enjoy it and move on. And if you happen to eat something that's not in alignment, that maybe you slip up, eat it, enjoy it, and move on. We don't carry the guilt. We don't need the shame. We don't need to start storing more energy, more emotions. We just eat it and move on, right? And so that's the process. That's the process in a nutshell. That's the process overview, right? Okay, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, you're welcome, Joy. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for coming to the Overcoming Overeating workshop. I'm so grateful for everybody's sharing, for everybody's vulnerability, for your attendance, and for your open-heartedness. You guys are the best. I so appreciate the time that you shared with me tonight. And for everybody watching the replay, thank you so much to everybody who's in the School of Transformation. I so appreciate you guys. Okay, everybody, I'll see you guys at the next live session. You should call this Don't Eat Your Feelings. Yeah, I should. That's actually really good, Stacy. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, so everybody, the subtitle for this, Overcoming Overeating, subtitle, Don't Eat Your Feelings. That's the subtitle. I love it. LOL. Thank you. Thank you, Emma. And thanks, Emma, for the poetry today. Beautiful poetry. Okay, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next live session. Love you guys. Have a great night, okay? Bye, everybody.